So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Jeffries from the Asian Development Bank. It's always an interesting time to present immediately after lunch. So I'll try to make this lively and quick. Just to give some quick background, Himachal Pradesh contains about 23,000 megawatts of hydropower potential, which is about a quarter of all of India's potential. And we've been working as ADB in Himachal Pradesh since 2007. And in 2008, we began a multi-tranche financing facility to fund 4 run-of-river hydropower projects totaling 856 megawatts. And all 4 are currently in construction. And the borrower of the ADB loan assistance is Himachal Pradesh Power Corporation Limited, which is the state-owned generation company, and their responsibility is to own, operate, construct the hydropower projects in the state. So next. So hydropower development requires acquiring land from private owners and utilizing some government land on which communities exercise certain rights. So as such, Himachal Pradesh Power Corporation Limited, or HPPCL, works closely with the villages where their projects are located. And as a government-owned entity, they take that responsibility very seriously. And they feel that they need to set standards and models for the whole sector in the state. And I want to add that these projects that I'm referring to are all run-of-river projects, which don't require very large storage dams, inundating and relocating villages and all of that. It's much more benign than that. There's still a lot of impacts, but I'm not talking about large-scale storage. So next slide. Okay, so I think this is the most important slide to discuss. The state came out with a policy in 2006 that mandates a local area development fund, which is every project owner of every project, irrespective of whether it's owned by a state government agency, the private sector, central sector, NHPC, has to contribute 1.5% of the total project cost to what's called a local area development fund. And it's administered by a local area development committee, which is stakeholders. It's the local community, it's the local panchayat authorities, it's the project developers, it's the state government. Those funds are managed by that committee, and it's the purpose of those funds is to make sure that the community benefits from these large infrastructure projects that are hundreds of millions of dollars to build. And so that was in 2006, and then the state went further in 2011, and they modified that requirement. And in addition to that 1.5% upfront cost, they also are going to require that 1% of the electricity sales from these projects, and this is all projects in Himachal Pradesh, must be contributed to the local community. So it's worded such that the local community gets 1% of the power output. What it really translates to is they get 1% of the revenues. Most of this power is sold. HPPCL being the state GenCo, they are obligated to supply most of their power to within the state, whereas a lot of other power projects, hydro projects in Himachal, are solely for export to the national grid. However, in the high peak power season for hydropower, which is when the snow melts, there's considerable power from these projects that will be exported as well. So this is another mechanism where 1% of the revenues from these projects gets input back into that community every year for, these are 40-year assets. So that is ongoing funds for development activities. Next slide. So just a very quick background. Himachal Pradesh is quite a small state, slightly under 7 million people, less than 1% of India's population. It's pretty dispersed throughout the state. It's a very mountainous state, and it's got poverty rates and human development index measures that are actually above the national average. And gender equality is pretty important and pretty advanced in HP. Next. So, separate from what I just described, this local area development fund and the revenue sharing are just standard, rehabilitation and resettlement activities that are done by HPPCL. And these are, again, to benefit the local communities. So they have a number of such programs. They use funds for, they of course have to compensate project-affected families for, land acquired. They have a training and skill enhancement program. They have merit scholarships for children in these affected villages. They conduct school sports events. They have medical facilities. And they also have to do a lot of information dissemination to the community, not just on the project and what's going on, but also on all these benefits that are coming to the project. Next. So, almost all these villages have community-based organizations, or CBOs. Mahila Mandals, women's groups, Yuma Mandals, youth groups, and other organizations. And so these are the organizations that HPPCL engages to spread the awareness and do a lot of these activities and coordinate with the community. And they have a very interesting, transparent selection process. They have a criteria for scoring each of these CBOs in terms of their experience and how long they've been active and staffing and so forth. And they do this scoring in order to select which CBOs do this kind of work in their affected villages. Next. So, again, each panchayat, and there may be several in a particular project area, will have a CBO assigned to work with the community and for doing these schemes. One of the major ones is the self-employment scheme, and that's especially earmarked for project-affected families. Himachal Pradesh grows a lot of apple orchards, which is something you need a cooler climate to do, and as such, there's a lot of income to the state from growing apples. You can't grow them in much of India. So if you acquire land, this land is pretty valuable, and so there's a very minimal, and they go out of their way to minimize acquiring such land, but they have all these schemes, and one of the employment scheme is a very important one. And this goes beyond, there's employment during construction. There's a lot of employment opportunities, but this goes beyond that. And they have funds available to help families and affected persons in livelihood development. Next. So they also have a scheme for training local youth. They have education and industrial training institutes, and HPPCL picks up all the fees and related expenses attributed to this. So they also have a merit scholarship program for project-affected families. And one interesting thing that's come out is they've been so concerned with taking care of project-affected families that non-affected families feel left out. And it's actually a very interesting dynamic. And so, by the way, that was one of the reasons that they introduced the 1% revenue sharing that goes to the whole community. Because up front, some people getting their land acquired were actually getting quite large sums of money. And people that weren't getting this money felt left out. So they've had to adjust and react to all these endeavors and figure out ways to involve the whole community and not just pile on benefits to just the affected people. Next slide. And importantly, they devote a lot of attention to medical fund schemes. They have medical camps, immunization, medical treatment, mobile health vans, and these projects attract a lot of temporary workers as well. So they have to construct quarters for these people. They have to manage, HIV awareness and things like that, and they have to, deal and address health issues of thousands of workers and not beyond just the affected villages. So one quick example, one of the projects we're funding, the Saurakudu hydroelectric project, their R&R plan takes into account state government policy, and as an ADB funded project, also the ADB has its own safeguard requirements that go into some of the activities they do, but I might add that what HPPCL does goes far beyond what ADB requires. Our policies are really geared for making sure people affected by the project are kept whole, and I think HPPCL goes beyond that and tries, especially with the have and have not issue, they're now focused more on the whole community and not just affected families. So some of the things they've accomplished in this particular project, and they're doing this on all their projects, are they've nominated 5 different CEOs, they have a scholarship fund, they've 58 people, and this data is a year or so outdated, but they had sent 58 students on scholarships, and these are not big communities, so 58 students actually, that's a lot of kids. So they have another 50 have gone on technical training, and they've implemented, again, their self-employment and medical schemes, and they have also developed a lot of local infrastructure. This goes back also to that local area development fund requirement, which improves roads and solid waste management. They've built shopping facilities, water tanks, upgraded roads. Roads are a big problem up there. It's mountainous, you have landslides sometimes, you have in the winter, sometimes some of these roads are not passable, and the harsh weather takes its toll on roads. So there's a lot of ongoing road upgrades, and it seems that from what I've heard, my interactions with HPPCL and these discussions with communities on how to spend some of these funds, roads seem to always come up as a big requirement or request. So in conclusion, this is an example of large infrastructure projects, a lot of money to build these projects, and a lot of the benefits go away from the community. This power goes into the national grid, or it's dispersed throughout the state. These are small communities, but they're right there affected by these projects. And so HPPCL and the state of Himachal have done commendable efforts to try to include benefit sharing upfront and ongoing throughout the life of these projects with the local communities. So these projects, and given the affected people and affected women, they can easily have gender benefits, gender elements to all kind of infrastructure projects, given this pool of community affected persons right in the vicinity of the project. So that's it. Thank you very much.
And may I request Suman Super to share some of our experience for the Nepal resident mission about the development projects.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. Actually, I'd like to start saying that ADB's gender mainstreaming policy always encourage us to look for opportunities for having gender and social inclusion design features in the projects. And usually what we do, because we have come from the at the ground level, we are the frontliner practitioners. We work at the ground, on the ground. So usually when we do the project design, we usually look for the gender and social inclusion promotional activities if there are similar kind of areas in the project. And generally, there are some, safeguard related or mitigation, risk mitigation activities, whereas there are enhancement activities. So, when it comes to the large infrastructure, especially in the energy sector, people do believe that there are no opportunities for JC mainstreaming because it's very large infrastructures and there are no community enhancement activities or scope for that. But what I'm going to say is that there are risk mitigation activities which is considered as safeguards activities in ADB's policy, in ADB's approach. And usually people tend to believe that there are no such enhancement or empowerment opportunities for gender equality and social inclusion in the safeguard related activities. But in case of energy sector, in the large infrastructure, we do look, we see the large opportunities for JC mainstreaming in the risk mitigation. And we can do more, even more in the risk mitigation activities sometimes compared to the other enhancement activities in other sectors. So I'm going to give you an example of the Tanaw hydropower project of Nepal, which is of capacity of 140 megawatt, and it is at the very initial stage of implementation. And this project has a community development strategy, and that is for the risk mitigation to address the resettlement issues, environmental and other negative social impacts. And along with the community development strategy, according to the ADB's guidelines, we do have a gender equality and social inclusion action plan in it. The community development strategy it's a broad strategy for the community to really promote the livelihoods of the communities who are affected by the project infrastructure and the other factors. But the JC Action Plan, in addition to that, has the activities and indicators and targets that really cross-cuts all the community development activities, which has many components. So you can see here, I can see there. So in the community development strategy, let's go to another slide. Can you go to another slide? Yeah. I'd like to start from the key design feature, which I also consider very important in our context, that is participatory, meaningful consultations. Consultations are very, very important from the beginning of the project, which Chayaji also mentioned earlier. And from there, we start to communicate with the women and the people in the community. That those include socially excluded and vulnerable groups as well. And usually they tend to be left out in these processes because our processes are very formal and the public notices are sent, and through the village development committees or district development committees. And people from the vulnerable communities or women, they really don't get access to this information. So that is one of the key barriers from the beginning of the project, why they are left out. So in this project, the design has been, envisages that the consultation process will be very, very focused. It will be done even separately for the women and vulnerable groups in the focus group discussion. There will be women mobilizers to facilitate this consultation process. And this consultation process will also include the orientation and awareness on women's legal entitlements and in the compensation, if their husbands are not there, if they are not the landowners, because usually the government send letters to the landowners if there is a land acquisition and compensation issues. And it's usually the men who are the landowners, they are, they participate in the consultations. And in our context, where there are many female-headed households, their husbands are away. In that situation, it's always very necessary to have them or women from those households in the consultations. So considering those barriers, the design has expected that there will be more focused consultations, and that will have a larger outreach to all the households, affected households. And I have also heard that the executing agency, the Tanahu Hydro Power Limited, has also sent the letters to each of the households and invite both husband and wives in the consultation process of for the compensation. And another opportunity this project has envisaged is in the employment sector. It is expected, it is aimed that around 30% of the total employment generated by the project will be provided to women. There are certainly challenges for that, 30%, in which sector? So the process we have envisaged is to first identify the type of employment that will be generated during the project implementation. There could be different types of employment opportunities. And based on the assessment of that, then the project will focus on which sector women would be more suitable. They should be available or they are willing to be employed. So that kind of discussion is going on with the Nepal Electricity Authority and the Tanahu Hydropower Limited. So we are discussing with them that there should be employment opportunities. We have to meet the target of 30% of women, and we really need to see the areas, the skills, where women can really fit, or they really want to do the new skills also. In new areas, technical fields. And another activity is the restoring livelihoods of the displaced households. There will be about 86 households who will be completely displaced, and those will be given first priority in the skills development and vocational training. And the female-aided households and BPL households, they will be covered, 100% will be covered, and their number will be identified through the socioeconomic survey, which is going to be conducted very soon. The total number is there, but to identify the specific, these vulnerable households, there will be socioeconomic survey. Next slide, please. In addition to these 86 to be displaced households by the main infrastructure, the other 700 households will also be affected directly by the project. So those will be also provided skills development training after doing the need assessment on the ground. The need will be identified, what type of skills do they require, and what is the market linkages, and what type of microfinance support or other technical support will be needed. So that will be assessed in the first hand, and then they will be provided with this livelihood skills training. And besides this, there will be rural electrification of 70,636 households, and there has been already 1,700 female-headed households identified. So that target is also there, and those will be also connected. The female-headed household, the connection to female-headed household will be fully ensured by the project. And the households which are connected through the rural electrification will also be provided with microfinance support and enterprise development. And as we discussed in the morning, that usually it's very important to have the social mobilization processes in the community to really engage them in the project activities. So for all these activities, there will be self-help promotion. they will be formed, not only the self-help groups, if they can grow further, then there will be community-based organizations. But the entry point, the beginning is from the self-help groups, and those self-help groups will be involved in the saving credit activities, and they will be created as a knowledge-based groups and trained on health, safety, and income generation activities or information, and that will be provided through the social mobilizers and the team of social safeguard team based at the Tanamu hydropower project and the project unit. So, and at the community level, the social mobilizers will be hired. So, with their facilitation support, the self-help groups will be formed, and through them, the various activities will be conducted. And micro-enterprise development training and financial support will also be provided. Besides this, there is also some institutional level JC mainstreaming also included in the community development strategy and JC action plan. So the Tanamu Hydropower Limited, in their policy in coming days, need to have a JC considerations. So we are thinking of, it could be in their structural level as well as in their programs, even after the project completion, the continuation of these community development activities, whether in the form of the CSR or some other optional ways. So we are still discussing with the project team that in what way it will be in the coming days, because the project is at the very initial stage now. But it is very good to see that, we are happy to see that there are already within their structure, out of 15 engineers, there are 5 women engineers recruited by the THL and more in the administration. But more at the community level, so there has to be more discussions, to be done with them in the coming days. But we hope that we have heard from them that they have a commitment to really work on this, and so we hope that there will be, they will really consider the JC provisions in their institutional, the future policies, and the work framework. And with that, I'd like to stop here, but I just want to mention that besides having the design, very strong design features, and we really take into consideration that there are certain challenges, the issues that comes up in the process of having voice and agency of women and marginalized groups in this hard infrastructure projects, because there are stakeholders committees. The stakeholder committees, they are always politically highly influenced. The political groups highly influences these committees. So in that context, usually it's women and marginalized who are excluded. They are excluded from their representation, excluded from their voice. So I think that is one of the foreseen challenges that we need to really tackle with when the project progresses. Thank you.
Thank you, Suman and Andrew, for the nice presentation. Now that it's open to the floor for any questions and answers. Yes.
Well, from blatant exploitation by the power companies, we are going to the other extreme of getting fully engaged with the communities, and that's good. But at the same time, one can realize that these people are not equipped with the necessary skills, and also to what extent is this all economically viable. You need some professional groups who can manage community level interactions and who can assure that community benefits are there. But also where are the lines where you can say the ease of doing business is also there, the return of the power plant companies is also there, because we might run into a situation where nobody wants to invest in power sector. So maybe Andrew can tell us where are the to what extent this is manageable and where one is to draw the line. I'm not sure.
Okay. Regarding the, I think your point is well taken. To give an idea of the amount of funds, this 1.5% upfront payment for local area development, take the project I just raised as an example, it's 111 megawatts. I don't know the exact cost. Say it's roughly, say, $150 million. So that's $1.5 million, or about 10 crore rupees. So that's a fair amount of funds to be put into a small remote area. And then that same project might generate revenues every year that translates into, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 crore rupees of annual revenue going into that community. So we haven't reached the revenue stage yet. All our projects are under construction. I will add, though, that is a state requirement that's outside of the ADB project. The 1.5% funds that are supposed to go to the community is a requirement of the project owner, and they have to pay that, and that's a state requirement. So it's kind of outside of our project, but these CBOs and the selection process, are designed to kind of watch over and get a broad stakeholder kind of commitment on how to use those funds. The upfront funds, I think it's a lot of kind of fixed infrastructure, improving, building a hospital, a mini medical facility, roads. The question will be, how do those annual revenues get spent? And another thing you mentioned on the viability from an investor point of view. Okay, the state requires 1.5% of the project cost from the owner to be put up for this purpose. 1% of the revenues forever go back to the community. The state also takes 12% of the power from each and every hydro project in the state. They see the hydro resource as, the state's primary economic resource, and so they take that power, and most of it is traded or sold in the marketplace. But that revenue, so there's quite a revenue stream that goes to the state government from each and every project in the state. So you're right, all these things add to the costs of the projects. So I guess that there has been interest from the private sector. It's actually lagged more recently. There's a number of reasons for that. I'm honestly not sure if one of those reasons is that maybe they're, extracting too much from these projects. I don't know the answer to that, but
Yeah, I don't either.
yeah, okay. So anyway, that's all I have.
Any other question? Yes.
I wanted to raise a question to Suman in terms of the explanation that gender equality principles or social inclusion mechanisms that are addressed, they are very good. But one of the things that we are aiming at is an ADV very much in terms of the social norms and cultural attitudes change. So how they are addressed in these public consultations or some kind of assessment is done, that this was the situation, now gender relations have changed in terms of the looking at its impact. Thank you.
Yes, in ADB's design process, we do gender analysis, gender and social inclusion analysis, and that covers the various aspects, including the social cultural barriers. There could be several barriers, several dimensions of exclusion, and the social cultural barriers has been identified, and we really look into whether that is how it is at the community level and the institutional level. And right now we have also started working at the institution level. The mindsets that is there in the not only in the community but at the institutional level as well. And it's not only the policies and institutions, even if we form for the institutions, JC policy for the institutions, but it is very important to change especially we work with the government. And it's really challenging, for us to really address that. It's not an easy thing to change the mindset, sociocultural mindset. But what we have observed is things has been changing, and that has been also, influenced by the external environment, that the political and the policy environment that has become very conducive in the recent years in Nepal. So that has really helped to people to think over their long traditional thinking. But in our project level, how do we address is that through the training, the orientations, the sensitization of the government people at the different levels, even in the country level, at the regional level, and more researches. Through research, we do the policy dialogue. Right now, we are in Nepal. We are doing gender and social exclusion assessment in energy sector, and Chayaji is also involved. And based on the findings of the research, we will do the consultations and the policy dialogue with the government. And I think that kind of that sort of activities will help in improving people's mindset, and that's a big challenge. Did I answer your question?
Sure. Okay, good.
Okay. Thank you. And one more question is there, so if you need some time to the last. This is the last question.
Hi, I'm Manish. I'm working on an ADB TA here in Rajasthan. My question is to Andrews. While you have set up this local area development fund, what kind of institutional structures have been put in place at the district or the state level to manage this fund? One. Second is, there is a CSR policy which also has similar norms, where the developer is required to contribute something from the project cost as well as a recurring contribution from the profit. So do you think that there is a conflict here, and have you encountered any kind of a resistance from the developers in contributing such huge amounts? Thank you.
Okay, well, the developer we're funding is HPPCL, state-owned government. So there's no resistance from them. It's their state government's decision to put this in place. I honestly don't know the full reaction of private sector hydropower developers on these points. One thing, though, is that communities can wreak havoc on a project, and hydropower takes a lot of upfront time and money to develop, and you have a lot of sunk costs. And so as a private investor in hydropower, and this is one of the reasons it's challenging to invest in it, you can't afford to, after sinking a lot of time and money, have community problems. So I think that a smart hydropower developer understands that you have to involve and give back to the community. It's a business risk if you don't. As for the actual administration of these funds, again, it's outside of the ADB project. It's not something that we monitor or enforce. It's a state government guideline, notified requirement. I do know that the funds are, the use of those funds is, the decision on how to use those funds is formed from what are called LADCs, or local area development committees. And they have panchayat government officials, they have district collector level government officials involved, and they have representatives from the village themselves, the community. It's a three-way committee that has to agree on how those funds are used. I personally don't have any data on exactly, how effective that's been.
Okay, thank you very much for patient listening. And thank you all.
I'll invite Mr. Keshri to give us a brief presentation on the MP Energy Efficiency Program and also on the technical assistance project that is associated with the MP Energy Efficiency Program. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's always a challenge, as Jeffrey said, to address the session after lunch. And Jeffrey has added to my task. He's such a smart, handsome, and articulate person. He has increased my challenge. Being a rural-oriented state, I will try to meet up that challenge. Next. See, Madhya Pradesh, before I come to this project and the TA, let's go back to a context in 2010-11. Madhya Pradesh was a highly power deficient state. The peak shortage was almost to 20%, energy shortage was 15%. Abhishek Jain showed a video. If I go back to 2011, 2010, it was quite true for Madhya Pradesh. Our load was 4,500, 5,000. Today, our load, peak load is 11,000. Then we are supplying 24/7 power to all households and all commercial establishments, all industries. Only agriculture we are supplying 10 hours. As Ms. Parikh was mentioning about the surplus power, Madhya Pradesh also falls in that category, ma'am. We spent almost 250 to 300 million, 250 to 300 million, paying fixed costs for the power tied up in long term without using that power, because my load refused to grow as projected because the Indian economy was not doing so well. We are supplying to household, and household contributes around 24-25%. Our agriculture load has certainly gone up. And when we embark on the journey to power for all, ADB assistance came so handy and so useful for us that it enabled us to supply quality power to rural areas, especially agriculture. Times of India carried a survey in April 2015, which was published on the front page. The agriculture's contribution to state GDP, and I am happy to share that Madhya Pradesh agriculture share in GSDP is 32%, and the UP was second, which has 24%. Then, when I come down to the program, ADB program, and the gender sensitization and empowerment as such, I will add more to that. But we see, the electricity is known more by its absence than presence. When we are present there, no one talks about it. When we are not, that's why in Hindi we say कि हम सबकी झोपड़ी और सबकी खोपड़ी में रहते हैं. We are everyone's mind and every household. Now in Madhya Pradesh we have created a situation where even if the power goes out for 5 minutes, I get 5 SMSs. People get excited, people get angry. And that's a good sign. That's a good sign. So to meet this power for all, we went for feeder separation. ADB supported us with assistance of $400 million. And on the transmission side, we got transmission and distribution side, we got another 350 million. So it's a 750 million ongoing developmental loan with the Madhya Pradesh. And I requested the country head that we can take it to 1 billion if she decides. And with ADB came the organization called Hand in Hand and Frankfurt School of Financial Management. They work on TA and gender empowerment, women empowerment, which I'll share. There was a talk on the tariff subsidization, targeted subsidy and all. See, on paper, it's certainly targeted subsidy. BPL, SC, ST, agriculture, these are all targeted community. They get subsidy. But unfortunately in distribution, there are self-credited subsidy also. People don't want to pay. Some people don't want to pay. They say it's a government should credit to my account. I have credited myself into my account, don't ask for payment. So that also is faced by almost all discoms in the country. Then village electrification. And the topic is very apt, beyond meter. And inclusive growth. You talk of inclusive only when there are some exclusion. So those villages which don't have access to electricity, they certainly are excluded. The class, social class who are not provided with household electricity, they are certainly excluded. And Madhya Pradesh, we are working towards inclusion of those villages and those classes. We had a target of 225 villages. We are left with 477 villages which are yet to be census villages are to be electrified. Out of that, 324 are from conventional, 153 from non-conventional. Out of 324, last financial, our target was 225. We did 244, and by June this year, all conventional villages will have access to electricity. Another challenge which we will face is household. We'll have almost 2.5 to 3 million household to connect to, which is a daunting task. We'll try to do it this calendar. We are meeting our solar RPO target. When we talk of clean energy, we are moving towards that also. And wind will meet almost 70% this year, but next year, because we added 1400 megawatt in wind energy last financial year. So that should help us in meeting our RPO obligation for non-solar next year. Our Chief Minister is quite gaga over women empowerment. His Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Ladli Lakshmi, that has been adopted by Government of India. And in Madhya Pradesh, if you travel in rural areas between 8:30 to 9:30 or 10, such a pleasant sight, hundreds of girls going to school on bicycle. Because 6 years ago, he started the scheme that all school going, high school going girls will be provided with bicycle. Such a wonderful sight. Then came the provision of electricity. I must tell you, the scoring, the percentage of students has gone up. Yesterday I was in Ujjain. We are having Singhas. So one son from Banaras has come. He runs a college. He says, out of 1000 students in my college, earlier there were 100 students, now there are 250 students from Madhya Pradesh. और उन सबसे पूछता हूँ तो बोलते हैं कि हमारे बिजली रहती है, कम पढ़ते हैं. So the Chief Minister and the state government decided somewhere in 2011-12 to go for power for all and 24/7 power. People used to laugh at Madhya Pradesh because we were short in supply, short in generation. So the government of Madhya Pradesh used electricity as a big enabler and levelizer, which indicates the level of socio-economic development, especially of poor, women, girl child, and students, and farming community. Now, next slide. Then, when ADB came in, they came up with a technical assistance to help us to inculcate the sense of empowerment, micro-enterprise, among women. And ADB is working in 28 districts. So for feeder separation, we have 3 streams of funding. 60% comes from ADB, almost 30% from REC, and 10% from the state budget. Next. This is when we started this project in 2012. This was the status. We ranked quite low in Gender Development Index. The knowledge of microfinance, microcredit was not widespread. During the project preparation, household survey was conducted, and the result of the survey is there for everyone to see. And we have interacted very closely with those women in the district. We had a workshop at Bhopal level also. I have personally seen the enthusiasm, their product, and the spark in their eye. No, this project has lit up the fire of imagination for a choice. They have a choice to work only in agriculture, because agriculture is a seasonal business. They have a choice to use their time, which is not otherwise productive, and I must compliment ADB and their partner hand in hand for doing a wonderful job. Next. Let's come to the impact as such. See, these are the rural women who have never known that they can do anything else apart from cooking and agriculture work. They are making bangles, they are making bags, they are making LED bulbs. They are using motorized potter wheel. Because see, in rural areas, people generally don't use refrigerators. It's an earthen pitcher which is used for cool drinking water and for storage of grains also. Next. Around 20,000 women were trained in micro enterprises in 28 project district, and all of them are using electricity not only for the household purposes but for their economic activity as well. Next, and the ADB and this project is run across all 3 discoms. One is located headquartered at Jabalpur, one at Bhopal, one at Indore. The components are same. See, what are the major indicators? Increased income of women entrepreneurs, improved health condition. That's very important. And this very well dovetailed with National Rural Health Mission's objective also. And because of access to electricity, women had more time to spend on themselves or on their children, as well as they could take out some time to do economic activity as well. The impact evaluation is going on. When we started the concept of feeder separation, the first cabinet note was approved in 2010. That time, people were not sure what will be the trajectory of agricultural development. Now when we are about to complete feeder separation, we have identified another 1,000 feeder which needs to be bifurcated, because agriculture load has come on those feeders also, and you'll be happy to note that even in tribal areas like Dindori, Mandla, Anuppur, which we left in the first phase in feeder separation, we are going to separate feeder there also, because there is a demand of quality power supply for agriculture, and we limited it to 10 hours precisely because for environmental reason, groundwater, and to keep the salinity level in the soil at low. Punjab is an example where salinity is very high. Then agriculture production has increased. I think Madhya Pradesh will be the only state which has got Krishi Karman award last 4 years, and our agriculture growth is 20% plus in last 4 years. When you talk of wheat, one goes to Punjab and Haryana, there is nothing beyond. But I am happy, and it's a pride moment for Madhya Pradesh that in procurement of wheat, we have left Punjab and Haryana behind. The only state above us is UP because of its size. We can't do anything on size. Then the power supply, agriculture development has its impact on the state subsidy also. If you go back to 2011-2012, the state subsidy to agriculture sector and free power supply to SC, ST and BPL was 2,250 crore. This financial, it will be almost 9,000 crore. We get subsidy in time. 98% of subsidy comes in time. And another initiative we are taking is last mile connectivity. We have around 2.1 million permanent pump connection. We still have around 400,000 to 500,000 temporary connection, pump connection. We want to convert all these pumps into permanent connections so that the farmers has a choice of taking more than one crop. And I was talking to ADB team today that if they can pitch in and help us, the loan on Madhya Pradesh goes beyond 1 billion. So feeder separation project has significantly contributed to the growth of rural area, not only in agriculture, but in social sector, in health, and in creating the sense of enterprise, sense of pride among the women of Madhya Pradesh. Thank you for giving me opportunity, and thank you for giving a stage to Madhya Pradesh. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keshri. You have beautifully linked and talked about inclusion, exclusion versus what this program has done for MP. It is beyond the benefits of energy. We can see very clearly. I will now invite Natalie Chun, economist, economic research and regional cooperation department of ADB, to give her brief presentation. And Natalie, while you give your brief presentation, if you can just touch upon why impact evaluation is important, and what are the, I know the time is very less, but if you can just briefly touch upon what are the key elements of IE methodologies, that will be really good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity to get to speak to you today about impact evaluation. Impact evaluation is something that's really close to my heart because this is something that, as people in development, we really should be thinking about who is this project benefiting. Is it benefiting a large set of people, or is it only benefiting a few people? So, a lot of times we do get swayed by, specific case studies. These are all good, but a lot of times, if we're going to make effective use of development resources, we really need to think about, is this benefiting a large set of the population? So it's really important to think about undertaking impact evaluations, especially when we're thinking about innovative projects, when we're thinking about large investments that are being made. And it's not an assessment about, is this a good or bad project? It's really about refining the project, trying to make it better, trying to figure out who should we target, and making hard choices about who to exclude potentially, because not everybody can take certain projects or interventions and actually make use of them. So in any case, if you could just flip through the slides. I mean, so the main candidate projects are really kind of the innovative projects. And at the end of the day, what we really want to see is that we're going to take this money, use it effectively, and maximize the benefits for the largest set of population possible. Next slide. So I'm going to try and boil all of this down into like 2 minutes now. But essentially, most of the time, if we think about the key aspects of impact evaluation, there's 3 elements. The first is the theory of change. The second is looking at kind of the key indicators, both inputs and outcomes. And then the last is evaluating the results or impacts of the project. So what is the theory of the change? Theory of change is really looking at kind of what are the issues and challenges. This requires undertaking a really extensive literature search on kind of the causal impacts. So there's a lot of people that might think that, kind of basic before-after analysis is the impact. But a lot of times this actually is not estimating the correct effects of whether a project is actually leading to the outcomes from that specific intervention, because there might be a lot of other kind of mechanisms that are going on in the background that lead to similar outcomes. And so whether people can actually take a project and have that affect outcomes is one of the key things that the impact evaluation is trying to isolate. So after we kind of do this analysis, we try and pick the best intervention, think about behavioral changes, and then figure out what are the kind of outcomes that is it affecting in terms of the intervention. Is it affecting kind of social behavior? Is it affecting incomes? Is it affecting I don't know. I mean, there's so many, I guess, different kind of aspects that it might affect. So there's also short-term versus long-term impacts, and these are all things that we must think about. After that, we need to start really thinking about doing the baseline analysis. Should this be in terms of measurement of indicators? So the next one. So what indicators are actually measurable? There's a lot of things that we might be interested in, but they're actually not measurable. So trying to figure out what is the design of the questionnaire that can measure the impacts precisely is the key. And then finally, it's coming up with the results or impacts. Behind all of this, we really have to think about sampling design, control groups. If you don't design the proper control, you're probably not going to come and be able to isolate the impacts. So at the end of the day, impact evaluation is really important for getting at the causal estimates, not just saying that this program is having an effect, that and making sure that it actually leads to the outcomes, the intended outcomes that we hope for. At the end finally, I guess the final thing is to say is that ADB does try and support impact evaluations. We're here to serve as a matching process between, project officers and researchers. We also can help with basic technical assistance, and finally, we do provide support for funds of impact evaluation. Thanks.
But now we move on to Sumit, and Sumit, it comes from Nirman, and Nirman has conducted impact evaluation for technology system, that is the feeder separation program. If you can touch us upon that project. Thank you.
Thanks. So think of my talk as what Natalie said, a case study of that. And let's see if I can validate some of the claims Mr. Kishore made, okay? So before that, impact evaluation is much more than just statistics, surveys, okay? It's also about building consensus and buy-in at different levels. So I want to acknowledge that it was not only Nirman which did it. ADB, like Priyanka is here, before him Herath was there, Indian Resident Mission of ADB, as well as Porwal was there, Central Discom, Government of Madhya Pradesh, all were stakeholders, and they helped at different aspects and at different stages of this impact evaluation. Now the difficult part, to explain what I exactly did, okay? So what the question we tried to answer was whether separation of feeders is better or worse than mixed use feeders. See, we didn't want to answer a question whether electricity is important. I thought that was a foregone conclusion. Everybody knows electricity is important. It's the greatest enabler. Question was, if providing 24 hours electricity through separated feeders, is it better for the consumer versus mixed use? See, for discounts, it is always good. As you rightly said, the technical and commercial losses, in your parlance, in my parlance, theft is reduced if you do separation of feeders. Second advantage of separated feeders, like physical separation, the supply to farm sectors can be rationed to effectively 10 hours. It also reduces the groundwater use. So that's the good part of it. On the other hand, separated feeder also means effective rationing. With mixed use feeders, even if you don't give them three-phase supply for 24 hours, they can always steal. They can use phase feeders and run. So am I making consumers, especially farm consumers, worse off or better off using feeder separation? Okay, that's the question we tried to answer. The way I found my control group, or the two groups, is the Madhya Pradesh government already had a policy. Everybody must get 24/7 and all farmers must get 10 hours of supply. I selected substations where at least one feeder was separated and one feeder was mixed use feeder. A substation usually serves between 10 to 40 villages. So it's a very small area. So geographically, I hope that they would be similar villages. Then, so total my sample size was about 40 substations, and from these, I selected 157 villages. And the sample size about 1,700 farmers and 2,600 households. Obviously, this impact evaluation also looks at the household level impacts, but I'm going to talk only about the farm level. Okay? And what I did was just compare these two groups and see what's the impact. I ensured using census data and some baseline data that these groups who are statistical clones of each other before the feeder separation. Okay? And these are my findings. So just let's see few indicators. There are like hundreds of indicators we looked at, but I'm just going to give you a abridged story. So the functioning of meters, we see from control group of 9%, additional 13%, okay, in the treatment group had a functioning meter. Kerosene as main source of lighting, that reduced by about 4%. The last column is the p-value. Usually we like to see something at least 0.1, but 0.2 is not too bad, and I don't want to get into the technical discussion, but there is some movement there. The main source of light is getting shifted towards kerosene, shifted towards electricity. At farm level, we see that there is a reduction in amount of money spent on diesel, and that's significant, okay, statistically. So there is reduction in diesel, and why? A farmer focus group told us that he will irrigate his land no matter what. If not electricity, he's going to use diesel. Coming down to irrigation, we see in Kharif, this is more, it is not irrigation dependent, but they do need supplemental irrigation, and that does increase production. We see a very strong impact there. Irrigation does increase in Kharif, and it does help in production. Soybean was the main crop in Kharif, and we see from the control group of 1,100 or like about 1,000 kilogram per hectare yield, it increased by about 300 in the treatment. That's a big impact at agriculture level. When we come to the Rabi is irrigation dependent, okay? They will always use lots of irrigation. A good thing, yeah, we do see small change in irrigation water use, but that is, statistically not at all significant. That means just because giving regular supply, people are not exploiting more groundwater resources, okay? But there is a movement, a strong movement in, there is no movement in wheat production also. Coming to summer, again, this is good or bad, and that's what impact evaluation does. It shows you what is happening. We, again, don't trust these numbers because the sample size is really low in summer. All this is driven by like 5 villages out of 157. But we do see that there is a jump in percentage of farmers who decide to do sugarcane farming, okay? And amount of irrigation substantially increased in these farmers. Is it a good thing? Yes, it's generating income, it's generating agricultural produce. Is it a bad thing? It's sugarcane. You know, sugarcane is groundwater depletion. So good or bad, all I'm showing you is a mirror. How to take it forward is the policy dialogue impact evaluation supports. Okay, thank you.
I will now invite Ranin from PwC to, Ranin, if you can just talk about, because we are now entering into a very interesting area, that is impact evaluation on the gender. And how do we do it? What would be the hypothesis? Because this is something new, I think, for us and for you also. So if we can just, listen from you that how do you plan to do it, that would be very good.
Thank you, Prabjot. What we have been tasked with by ADB is to do two assessments on two programs. One is the feeder segregation, and second is on the skills development for women-led micro enterprises, the TA. And our focus is on impact, gender disaggregated impact from these two. Now, as you would have heard from Natalie as well as Sumit, that we need a treatment group and a control group for doing this impact evaluation, and we should have a baseline for doing the impact evaluation. Now, our task has been complicated a little bit. One, by the speed and efficiency of Government of MP in implementing projects, and the second is that the skills development for women-led micro enterprises program has been completed. The TA is completed, and the second one, I think 85% feeder segregation has already been achieved. So we are in a situation where these interventions have progressed a lot. So we are starting from that position. Now, so what do we do? We have to have a solution to that. So what we are trying to do is, one is that we would of course try to piggyback on some of the data that was collected under the study that Sumit did. So we'll try to see if we can use some of that data. Second is, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to build the counterfactuals. Instead of, since we don't have the treatment and control, we are trying to create the counterfactuals. So what we are saying, like this TA has been completed, so to explain what it means. What we are going to, when we take our samples, sample households and sample women, what we'll do is we'll take different groups. One is women who are not part of SHGs, the self-help groups, then women who are part of self-help groups, then women who are part of self-help group and have been exposed to one training under this TA, then women who are part of self-help groups and have been exposed to 2 trainings, and similarly all the trainings. So we'll have these different groups of people and try to see if we can assess something. Now the other aspect of impact evaluation is, now what is the hypothesis we are trying to test? Now the hypothesis that we are trying to test is, intuitively we say that yes, that would be the case, and as Mr. Keshri already pointed out, that some of the good impacts that have happened already is that there is an increase in women empowerment, income of women, and quality of life of women. So on the first one, we'll see whether it has impacted the quality of supply. Because of the feeder segregation, it is expected the quality of supply has improved and the hours of supply has improved for domestic consumption. So has it impacted the quality of life of women? And on the second one, whether these training have led to an increase in income of the women and empowerment and decision making in the household. So you would say that why are we doing it? Means we know that this is true. If we do this is going to happen. We have all talked about in the previous presentations also that this is the case. Well, the challenge is attribution. Now, it is not that these women are exposed to only this program. Now, as Mr. Keshri himself said, that when income has gone up, there are programs related to National Rural Health Mission, which has contributed to many things. There is a program called Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Mission, RKVY. Now that would have also impacted something, and there may be several other things. One intuitive thing is that if a woman is part of SHG, that itself shows that woman is a little different, because she's inherently stronger to go and become a part of SHG than a woman who has never gone to the SHG. So, this challenge comes, which essentially we are saying that what is the attribution and what is the aggregate effects, means that challenge also comes, that what is the aggregate effect, and also the size of effect. Like, is the effect from these interventions, when we attribute it to these programs, is the size of effect significant enough that we are able to capture it? So that also becomes a challenge. So for that, what we will be employing, we are having a significant size of sample households that we are planning to cover, and we'll of course have statistical tools to be applied. I don't want to get into the statistical techniques on that, but to address these issues and find the impacts or the actual impacts whether these programs have had on the women. Thank you.
Thank you, Raman. That Ms. Kalpana Shankar is here with us. She is CEO of Hand in Hand India, who had implemented the TA on the ground as an implementing NGO. So I will just invite Kalpana, if you can share from the floor in 2 minutes quickly about your experience of implementing TAs on the Madhya Pradesh. Thank you.
I wish to thank Secretary KCG Prabhujot and Mr. Banerjee for giving us this wonderful opportunity. People were talking about access to finance and access to for energy inclusion in the morning. It was a wonderful project. We found, I've been working in Madhya Pradesh since 2007. Two or three major findings I would like to share. One was, although the TA was with the energy department, the rural development department came forward with the loans to set up energy enterprises. Imagine if you take up the total project outlay, no funding was provided for the micro enterprise part of it or the microfinance part of it, and it was at a very subsidized rate. Morning people were talking about loans by microfinance institutions at a higher interest rate. So that came in very handy during the pilot phase. Both DPIP and NRLM, they came forward to actually provide loans. When we offered training, we immediately used to consult them. So that had really a huge impact. Second was the mobility. I have seen women before the training and after the training going independently to places like Indur to procure, to actually market their products. That was a wonderful thing. And even negotiating with their husbands to remove the veil, because for the pottery in the beginning, the sari used to get stuck in the machines. Then when the husband realized that they could bring something like 1,500 rupees to 2,000 rupees extra, they allowed them to actually remove. For me, it was such a wonderful transformation. Like, these are the small ways you can actually transform a society. And we were only thinking about reducing the drudgery. But in my own cases, when I went to visit several places, I've seen women where they have started building toilets in their houses. I think when we started the project, it was only to reduce the drudgery. So it went beyond. It addressed the issue of mobility. People could actually go, had the freedom, the decision-making powers to visit government offices. They could speak with confidence before the collector, before the secretary. And we were very thrilled when the chief minister and his wife, they visited the self-help group which we had started to buy bangles and encourage them. So it meant a lot to us. So we're very thankful to ADB for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Kalpana. You have given us, like a glimpse of what it has been like in MP. And I think we have been talking about MP. It has been our flagship project. Though the TA was for implemented over the period of just more than 2 years. It has given us an immense opportunity. We look forward to running study and in terms of impact, what it will be, because we want to see how we can take this forward. I would like to just conclude the session here because I have been told that we don't have time for questions, but our esteemed panel remain available during the break, so you can come up and you can discuss, and I'm sure you will have a lot to discuss with all of us. So we will continue over the tea, but right now we will close here. Thank you so much.
Let me start with Surendraji. Each of these countries employed slightly different and fairly innovative techniques and processes for making the electrification itself gender and social inclusive. So Surendra ji, I wanted to ask you a bit about the Community Rural Electrification Program, which is really very well known for its inclusive approach. Not just as people as beneficiaries and users, but to actually have a role in the electrification program. So I wanted to ask you to highlight some of these provisions that make it inclusive, and also what you did in JFPR and how that can be scaled up.
Thank you, Shamaji, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think before I highlight some of the points on the community rural electrification, let me introduce about the institution I work for. Nepal Electricity Authority is the state-owned electric utility company responsible for generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity in Nepal. So I'll now come to your point. Community electrification program was initiated in 2005 by NEA. It's part of the government policy to encourage public participation in rural electrification. That was the point, that was the key objective when we started this program way back in 2005. Under the community electrification program, the community electricity user groups registered under the Company Act, registered under the Association Registration Act, registered under the Social Welfare Act, or under the Cooperative Acts, actually apply to the Community Rural Electrification Department of NEA through the local distribution company with demarcation of the distribution area and information on technical capability, human capability, and financial resources. So under this program, under community electrification program, the government provides 90% of the cost of electrification, and the 10% is borne by the community themselves. So once they apply for community electrification program, we have in NEA a dedicated department to look after community electrification program, and this department is called Community Electrification, Community Rural Electrification Department, CRED. CRED verifies the information and issues the letter of intent to enter into agreement. This is how it proceeds, and accordingly we carry out the cost estimate. The community deposits 10% of the cost, and then we implement the program, we carry out the construction and hand over the facilities to the user groups. And basically you see, and when this was initiated, there were 4 key objectives. The first objective was to promote the public participation in rural electrification, and second was to bring in effectiveness in electricity distribution in rural areas by reducing theft of electricity. The third was to encourage private sector to participate in the rural electrification program. And the fourth one, I think, is the most important of all these. The fourth one was to develop the capacity in was to develop the technical capacity and the managerial capacity of the rural people to manage distribution networks in the rural areas. And as of now, we have 257 rural community, we call it EUC, electricity user cooperatives, and they provide electricity to 400,000 households. And if you look at the total number of residential customers of NEA, which start at 2.8 million, I think 400,000 is very, very significant number, and the response is very, very overwhelming. So every year we we get many applications. Applications request for community electrification program, but we cannot accommodate all of them, and we select the best type of process. And so far as JFPR component is concerned, JFPR component is aimed at providing support to electrification of 10 EUCs. That was the component, and then providing a technical and managerial training program to the executive members, to the members of the EUCs for running the distribution networks in a efficient, I would say, in a very professional manner. And unfortunately, out of those 10 EUCs, when the JPR actually went into implementation, 6 were already completed and we handed over. There are now 4 EUCs, and we have just provided contracts for construction of distribution facilities of the 2 EUCs. So under this JPR component, the 10% of the cost EUCs are supposed to bear. JPR fund provides 50% of that cost, the EUC's portion of the cost. So in a way, for each EUC, the JPR fund will contribute 5% of the total cost. And then we have already completed the training part. Even though the out of 10 EUCs, 6 EUCs, the facilities were handed over and they are in operation right now, we trained 5 members from each of the EUCs in the field of managing distribution business. That part we have already completed. 48, we provided training program to 48 persons from 10 EUCs, and 13 of them were women participants. So besides that, the other TA actually took care of the gender and other inclusive approach, and even for this JPR as well. And we ensured that the women especially participated in the training program. Thank you so much.
Let me come to a slightly different approach that was undertaken in Bhutan. And Mevang, maybe you can please elaborate the experiment with training community-based people, including women, in the wheat program under the JFPR. How was the experience? And especially given Bhutan's topography of remote rural areas, what does it really mean to engage women in providing that kind of services? Can this really be scaled up? And if yes, what can be done? That's like 5 questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe for the benefit of the audience, I would actually give you a few statistics from a country. Bhutan is fairly a small country with a population about 700,000. We are not 1 million yet. Because of the topography, we are fairly good in terms of hydropower resource endowment. And in terms of providing access to electricity, urban area is 100%. And when we talk about rural areas, we are talking about a little over 99%. So that's where we are. And the mode of providing access to electricity is we are going in 2 ways. One is to grid extension, in which we are actually physically extending the lines wherever it is possible. The other means is actually the off-grid options like small hydros or mini micro hydros, and then solar home systems. But this, the number of houses that we are actually being served from off-grid or decentralized systems are a little less than 2%. That's where we are. However, as we expand our rural electrification programs far and wide, we are actually confronted with a host of challenges. This is so because sometimes, in Bhutan, the settlements are very far and few in between. And sometimes when we talk about villages, one household is one village. Just imagine. And actually that makes the provisions of the provisions of services very difficult. But nevertheless, people want, they're expecting that the services should be affordable and they should be reliable. But to meet these two conditions, they don't necessarily come at a cost they can actually afford. So therefore what it means is that, like human beings, you do get sick, and when you get sick, you need to see the doctor. And therefore, even the type of the infrastructure and the services that we provide in the country need to be serviced. Should something it needs to be fixed up. Because our settlements are far and few in between, and we're talking country as a whole, which is administratively divided into 20 districts. It is a Herculean task for us to get everywhere. And sometimes to get from one village to other, we are talking about 2 to 3 days, because you don't have the road access. And in so doing, you actually have to take your, all your provision for a day, your, sleeping bags, the food supplies, and because sometimes you don't have anything in between until you reach there. So in such circumstances, it is also difficult to send one person alone. So we have to look for a couple, because at least for his safety. So therefore, then coming back to, that's why we decided to, because I was very much there in the design of the GAPF project for Bhutan. So therefore we said that, okay, if we are going to be very responsive, if we are going to be providing responsive services to the people, then all these requirements will have to be done at the local level. Because most of us, we sit in the Thimphu, but our clients are far in the villages. But for us, even to get there as and when you need it is just not possible. No matter how Superman we may be, but it's just not possible. So we decided, okay, if the responsive services are to be provided, we need to, build up the capacity at the local level so that the local services can be provided by the local people. And if this is so provided by the local people, even the sense of ownership is very high. And therefore, we expected that it will also enhance the ownership and therefore the sustainability of whatever the infrastructures and services that we provided. So therefore, that's why we actually tied up with ADB, and then we actually, under the department, we implemented the component B, which is mainly to build up this local capacity. And we promised with ADB, because since this project was also a gender-type project, we actually promised they will try 50% of the participants to be women. That was a Herculean task for us, because I think to train anybody, and more so, if you see the kind of the services needed, they will need to climb up the trees. The poles to fix up the problem. That's what you saw in your kind of thing. Because as we expand our transmission and distribution lines, trees fall on that. The shoots, the trees grow up from the underneath. Unless they are attended to at the right time, you cannot be guaranteed of the reliable power. And therefore, to keep track of, to give a watch of this, what's happening, we need to, that's where they need to work it out. And then more difficult are the off-grid areas. Because off-grids are really, wherever we can technically justify or economically justify, we do want it to connect with grid electricity. Because with grid electricity, you can actually cook your rice and do almost everything, what urbanites are able to do that. But with solar home system, because we cannot again afford to give a big system, so because of the financial constraints, they're actually able to lit up their rooms, houses, and charge their mobile. But again, in one place, you actually have to work 3 days just to reach there. So the challenge is, if someone who have availed the service to give whatever amount you can give is maybe too less, but for someone who actually goes up, the cost of providing the service, what I'm saying is, DSA, if you have to give the travel, it's just too much and no one can actually pay. So when you don't have the critical mass, that's the problem we're seeing. Now, let me come back to the challenges that we have. Now, I think we need to understand when we talk about the women in such kind of innovative ideas, women are actually, they themselves see as the caregivers. They have little children to look after, or they have the elderly people to look after. And therefore to take away to the training centers, away from there where they needed to be attended to, is very Herculean task. So what lessons have we learned? I think hands-on, if you are looking for active participation from the women group, then we need to take the trainings to them. That's the lesson that we learned. And in the process, we are also thinking that now we have this, whoever we have trained, these are seen as a role model. And when we actually go for the next program, I think we will not be actually be having that much difficult as we face this time around, because they have examples to see. Whether or not these projects, I mean, this kind of skills can be replicated or not, yes, I think we can, because increase the circumstances are changing. What works this year may not work actually next year. Because now there are a lot of competition growing up, and even as the women folk actually migrate into the urban areas looking for better opportunities, but it's just becoming simply too crowded. And therefore they need a better place, and now we see actually they would actually be going to the rural areas, and therefore I think we can actually tap the resources. With this, I think I will just conclude my talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Very clear that the context we're talking about is very, very different, very special, Herculean challenges. Taking training to women, this is something we've seen here, but we're also seeing in general in rural areas, that when you're talking about whether it's women's enterprises or whether it's women in providing services, it's just very difficult for them to leave their families and children and come. So you do need to take services to them, which is actually fairly difficult because it's very difficult to aggregate services at that level. It's just transaction cost is just very high. But I still think that it's been a commendable job, and let me also tell you that the PPC person that we are dealing with, Sange, actually said to me the last time I was in Bhutan that these women are his best performers. So they are few, but they definitely are going to be role models for the next generations, and like he said, they are his best performers. On that note, let me move to Mr. Tavaneshwaran from CEB, and who have actually tried with something very innovative in subsidizing access costs in Ampara district for providing electrification to the poor and the marginalized. So, Mr. Tavaneshwaran, I had two questions. First is that CEB has an excellent record just in reaching in access, So, what are the mechanisms in rural electrification that you've used for ensuring that the marginalized are covered? And I also wanted you to talk a bit about your JFPR program. I know some of the challenges in providing that kind of subsidies, but it'd be great if you can talk about it and talk about its replication possibility.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I thank ADB for giving this opportunity to me. Actually, now the Sri Lanka population is about 20 million, where the electrification level is 98.5. Even if it's 98.5, some of them they are unable to get the electricity supply. That means most of the low income people, that is rural people, because of the connection charges they are unable to pay with their day-to-day income. So first of all, I will talk about the JFR and I will talk about other methods. Under the JFR, we are giving the electricity connection on grant. That means the free of charge we are giving the electricity supply. The problem is we underwent selection of people, that low income people. Because we work out a criteria to select the people. Because the CEB alone can't do this program. So with the help of this our pre-election people, we work out the criteria to select the people. Also the government agent and the other man is called the divisional secretary, who is looking over the particular area. With the help of them, we prepared a questionnaire and we get the information from the whole villages, the low income people, and we give a weightage to each and every question and we select the people. But the selection is very difficult. Even some of the villages, they were not interested at all. When we went there, they said even you all are trying to give the service connection free of charge. The problem is the internal house wiring. The wiring part is very difficult because they don't have enough money to do the wiring, and the wiring also very costly. So with a great difficulty only, initially that was we aimed to give a 2000 connection, but ultimately we are given up to 4325. So we increase about double. So So with the available funds under the ADP, the balance money available, we got a concurrence from the ADP and we gave the connection up to 4,325. That was earlier only 2,000. So the problem is sometimes if you go there, they are telling that even we give the charge, the problem is their income, they are unable to pay the monthly electricity bill. So the payment of the bill also is a problem for them to make the payment monthly. In addition to that, now that house wiring. So somehow with the assistant actually now to motivate the people, there is a person called Grama Ledari, the government officer who is carrying out the administration of the village. So we motivate the people. Because our idea is to give 100% electricity to the whole houses. We don't want to leave a single house. So we motivate the people, all villagers through the Grama Ledari to get the connection. Now, actually now, when we started this project, we didn't get any response, but later on, somehow that we got some response from the villagers and we achieved our target about 4,325. That was we done and the AFR, even we visited the villages. We had the villages we visited after they obtained the supply. So we were happy because when we can see their smile on their faces because they underwent such a hardship in that village area. Also now we motivated, our CEB, our electricity board, we started a mobile service. The mobile service that helped a lot because otherwise we are providing the supply through the customer service center. That is little, particular area, only one customer service. They had to travel sometime 15, 20, 30 kilometers they had to travel. So we started a mobile service. The mobile service means this team will go to the particular village and they do all sort of things, even the filling up form or making payment or whatever it is. Even we gave the one-day service. The one-day service, the same day they had to fill the form, they had to make the payment, we'll accept the payment, the same day we'll go and give the connection. There is a one-day service, so the people are so happy. So otherwise they had to travel 2-3 times to our customer service center. First time they had to come and fill up the form and hand over, then they had to make the payment. There are so many things are there. So that was involved. So this one-day business, this mobile service, very successful operation. Now we are continuing to do that. Even the government now this launch a project electricity to all. That means 100% electricity to all the houses. We started another loan scheme where there is a special features on that loan scheme where we are giving the 40,000 Sri Lankan rupees loan. That is for the service connection as well as the internal wiring. The wiring also we are our loan money the CEB is doing the wiring, not the customer or the household. We are doing the wiring. There is only the pure limited point, 4 lamps point and 1 plug point because the houses are too small. We do the wiring and the connection given, but the connection is limited up to 50 meters. So the 50 meters our electricity board charges are big charge. So we will give the 40,000 that limit. We can give the connection as well as the internal wiring. So under this scheme also we started. It's going on very fast. We are thinking to finish this as early as possible. We are target for 1 month. But it may go even after 1 month. This time also we are motivating people to get the connection because we don't want to leave I told you earlier, a single house because we had to give one. Nowadays we are rowing the line, the power line up to where the premises. So those days of course, if anybody wanted to get a supply, they had to pay the total cost from the last pole of supply. Now we bring the line up to the premises, only he has to pay the 50 meter connection cost. The inside the land is more than 50 meter, of course the balance cost they have to pay. Otherwise they have to pay only the 50 meter fixed cost. Whether it's a 10 meter or 40 meter or 50 meter fixed cost they have to pay. Anything more than inside the land, only he has to pay the balance. Otherwise we'll take the supply to up to his premises on our cost. Now this was very successfully now we are doing nowadays because from the support from the response earlier I told you sometime there's no response, now they studied and the problem is that loan scheme monthly they have to pay only 780 rupees, the Sri Lankan rupees, 7 rupees, that is for the 6-year loan, 72 months they have to pay. In addition to the monthly bill, they have to pay the installment monthly. So it's not a very big amount, so anybody can afford to pay. Even we are also motivating now, even still the people are there, they were not interested, but at this time we are trying to achieve the 100%. So anyway, this project is successfully going on. I hope that very soon we can finish it. I spoke with this one and thank you very much.
Let me just move now to the NGO component of this grant. So like I said, there was a rural electrification component and the other part was done by the NGO, which really was to improve the effectiveness of electrification at the last mile. And we did 2-3 major activities in that. One was productive uses of electricity to promote energy-based enterprises. The second was to raise awareness on electricity use. Part of that was productive uses, but also safety was a big issue in Bhutan, and conservation techniques, and so on and so forth. So with that, let me come to Namiz then. Namiz, your experience with the awareness program on electricity use in Ampara was particularly interesting because you systematically recorded what the changes were, what the improvements were as a result of that. So I wanted to ask you if what do you think is the role for civil society and community-based organizations in this kind of rural electrification model? Is there room for a hybrid model where a utility joins up together with a civil society organization to enhance the effectiveness?
Yeah, reaching the last mile people is a difficult task, mainly for the government and government organizations. And I think that's where we really fixed well, because the NGOs and civil society organizations have a wider outreach on the field. They are from the field, and they also have better access, knowledge and awareness. And this project came to Sri Lanka at a time when the electricity cost for the consumers was high. And then there was a national level emphasis on energy conservation aspects. And our project under component B emphasized on efficient, safe and productive use of electricity. And of course the project key performance indicators are very clear. They were on increase of income for the families, decrease of time they spent on energy collecting firewood or whatever, and then increase of leisure time for the people, and lastly the decision-making ability of the women. And the project was emphasizing those key performance indicators right from the beginning from all the team members, because they were very relevant to the people as well. So having those key performance indicators in mind, we worked. And then we also worked with the national organizations, particularly the Sustainable Energy Authority, and we used their material. And then there was Public Utilities Commission, which was emphasizing on safety aspects of electricity. We also used their material and distributed among our communities. And then we developed a team under a TOT program, because reaching the last mile is not that easy if we get people from the centralized or the district level activities. And then when it comes for selection of participants, we use the mainstream government mechanism as well as the other NGOs in that area, because there were certain organized CBOs, NGOs and decentralized government mechanism where they could reach the people and who had identified the need for energy conservation awareness for the people. So we worked with the established mechanisms which really reduced our burden. And then we also had a component on developing skills on electricity-based employment or enterprises, and we linked these awareness programs with that aspect as well. And then there was another link to what Mr. Tavaneswaran mentioned. Identification of households for electrification was our task, whereas utilities task was to provide electricity access. So we used that opportunity also to create awareness among the people. So we had a lot of opportunities created by us, as well as opportunities in place in those areas where we could reach the last mile people. And then right from the beginning we were conscious about whether they are really reducing their energy or electricity consumption. At the same time, we were expecting them to use electricity for enterprises. So one way we were expecting them to reduce, and at the same time we were expecting them to use electricity for increasing their income. Therefore we had to have some sort of a baseline, and then we also did some specific case study type of activities to see the real changes, the behavioral aspect, the attitudinal and motivational aspects of the people. So they all helped us to see how electricity was helping them in their day-to-day lives. when it comes to awareness, we also had some training programs, as I said, assembling of LED bulbs, fruit processing technologies where electricity was used, dairy production technologies where electricity was used, and tailoring aspects, particularly encouraging them to use the motors and helping them to address the small technical issues without waiting for a technician to come from the town. And there were some of the training programs we have delivered, and then during all these programs we also address the energy conservation and productive use of electricity aspects. And then as an organization we had a lot of experience in enterprises development, particularly using technologies for income generation activities, and we use certain techniques such as the participatory market system development and development of business management skills, addressing the soft skill aspect of the enterprises, where we were encouraging the people to use electricity and at the same time do manage their enterprises in a better way so that they can make a better yield.
Shering, we can't talk about Bhutan without the remoteness angle, and I will bring in your experience with enterprise development and working with women in remote areas. So if you could mention some of the specific challenges and how did you address them, and what are really the results that could be generalized?
First of all, thank you so much. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank ADB for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Before I actually answer to some of your questions, I would like to also highlight a bit about my organization. I work for an NGO called Royal Society for Protection of Nature, and in Bhutan, we are the only environmental NGO fully concentrated on environment conservation, and we basically complement the Royal Government of Bhutan in conservation. And we as an NGO, we work outside the protected area system in the sense that Bhutan is about 52% forest park protected area system, including the biological corridors. So our organization basically works outside this protected area system, and our focus area is also ecologically rich areas where there are poor rural communities. So when this project, ADB project came in, it was an opportunity for us to venture into a new area, and we chose an area, a small portion of a district in southern Bhutan. And needless to say, just to echo Mr. Mewang, this part of the country, is extremely, the topography is extremely, very rough terrain, very difficult, and accessibility in terms is very remote. And when we started the project, it was very difficult to get into these areas. There were no roads, not even electricity, and there was electrification was going on, but the whole area was, still in darkness. So it was very difficult for us, especially in the initial phase of the project. And since, as Namis mentioned, we also have, as an NGO, we also have this advantage of, having a very wide outreach. So we also work a lot in environment education. From that angle, we had a very wide outreach. So in that way, I think as an NGO, we were also quite well received in these areas. And we closely work with the local government and the district authority. In terms of the challenges, primary challenges, the challenge was accessibility. And I would also say that because of this area being very remote, the incidence of poverty was highest, one of the highest in the country in terms of districts. So poverty was as high as 62% or even more. So if you go by blocks, then it would even become higher. So this was the challenge, and also the communities were, traditional societies, very, least exposed to modern development, and the only access, the information that they were receiving were through radios and through the local government offices and all. So it was very remote and very challenging to get into that. And the other important challenge was because since it was a very economically very poor area, there were other NGOs which were also interested in these areas. So there was this kind of multi NGOs intervention in these areas. So there was the, we as an NGO, I mean, we consulted the district and we were cautioned by the district that there are already other NGOs, please don't pamper our people. These people are already, I mean, having a lot of other projects, so be careful. So, I mean, these kind of challenges, I mean, to me it was a challenge because there are duplication of intervention and waste of resources. This could probably lead to waste of resources as well. And other important issue, major challenge was in terms of lack of leadership and stewardship, because the district was unable to reach to these very remote areas, and there was no proper leadership, especially in terms of enhancing the livelihood of the people, and specifically on women. And the final, I would say, is the challenge we had was because all the project members, I would honestly say that we didn't have any, by training or by profession, we didn't have any gender background. So we were all community workers, we were environment-related, trained in environment and pro-conservationists, so we had no gender background at all. So that was, I would put it as a challenge. So now coming back to how we really overcame this kind of challenges, I think it was very, the project was designed in such a manner that I think we had a lot of opportunity to interact with the team at the regional level. So that actually gave us a lot of, that enhanced our knowledge on gender powers, and all this gender-related knowledge. So that helped us a lot. And I would like to specifically thank Suma and Dr. Govind for giving us all this knowledge over the years. So actually, by the end of the project, we were, I mean, really, we understood gender more, and we could look at activities, people with gender lens. So it was quite a transformation within ourselves. So that was, I would say, a very good change that we saw within ourselves. And coming back to the area where we worked, we really wanted to bring some innovative interventions, but we also had this issue of scale. So the population where we intervened is barely about 7,000 people. So I mean, and as Mr. Myong said, it is scattered, and the settlements are far, and the population is very less. So even if we had some good interventions to market the products, be it agro-based or other products, it was really difficult to market it. So what we did was we actually capitalized on the existing community groups within the area, and we actually emphasized on the government-initiated interventions. For instance, the most important activity that we really capitalized was on the training on technical skills on bamboo and cane products. So from that perspective, I think we were really able to capitalize, and we also one minute, please. And we were able to actually achieve more than what we wanted. So we achieved almost 60%. So that was quite a good number. I think I'll end.
Let me just wrap this up by taking the same enterprise question to Purushottamji, who's with CRT, and to ask what has been the primary strategies for enterprise development, what have been the results, what can be replicated from this program.
During the answer of the questions, I would like to brief about CRT. As I already mentioned about CRT, that it has already been engaged for more than 2.5 decades in the, say, renewable energy sectors. I'm focusing on the gender mainstreaming, and it works with government development partners like say ADB and Inertia, ETC Foundations, HIBOS, and also say government organizations like ENA, AEPC, Alternative Energy Promotion Centers, and also the community level. And one of the project, I mean, say general focused project is the JFPR, which is implemented with the help of the partner organizations like NACON, and also ENE is the executing agency of this project. Yeah, regarding your questions, before going to the strategies, I'll just briefly highlight some of the problems actually we have faced, because without the problems maybe we might not be able to develop some strategy also. And also, so there is the problem. That's why here to solve those problems. For instance, some of the challenges we have faced is that the UCs, we have 10 UCs. They are located in different districts, and the people, they are they residing in the very remote areas. And another thing is that UCs that has some limitations as far as their organization development is concerned. And then next, the big problem is the volatile political situation during the implementation of these projects. There was elections. That's why the executive members of the UCs, they are busy in the elections. So that is these are some of the examples. And the other challenges is that there's no that much confidence between the AFIs and the beneficiaries, the women. In some of the branches I have visited, there are some programs with the AFIs, but they do not know even how to actually lend credit in these sectors. And definitely the women, they are very much ignorant of this. Energies, the credit which is available from the AFIs. So, institutional readiness is very, very important to provide credit to the energy sector. And another thing is that the technology suppliers is very much limited in the remote areas, and also the women, it's very difficult to engage them because their male partners have gone to the foreign job in the abroad. Another thing is the market centers. There is very limited market centers in the rural areas. Whatever they produce the products. Very difficult to sell those products, and they have to go very far. Away, the market to sell their products. Another challenge is, as Mr. Sonia has said, that during the implementation of the projects in the early stage, there are very few. The EUCs, they are electrified. And there are some challenges. Yeah.
Can you spell out the UCs?
Yeah, EUC means Electricity Users Committee. Electricity Users Committee. This is the kind of rural electrifications, community organizations. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Then there are some strategies we have developed. I already mentioned that the people, they are staying very far away in remote areas. Then how to provide the service to them? We cannot provide service from the center. So that's why the main thing is the local mobilization. That is the field facilitator. Also we call it business development facilitators. They were expanded to EUC sites in order to support the EUC in the selection of potential women entrepreneurs, with the expectation that at least 25% they would seek for the advanced training, and identification of potential enterprises, motivating women to engage in energy-based income-generating activities, and the linkages with various stakeholders, including microfinance institutions and organizations of the awareness campaign, advanced training as well as post-training support. And another strategy is the setting of criteria for selection and application processes, and the criteria for selection of women entrepreneurs were decided in consultation with EUCs, and each EUC invited application from potential women entrepreneurs. Interested women filled up an application developed by the project teams, and first round of selection or screening was done by the EUC, and EUC is serving the name list to the PDF project team, who performed further screening, and the final approval of potential entrepreneurs was done by the EUCs. Then another is the Yeah, okay. The provision of basic enterprise training. Yeah, okay. The provision of basic enterprise training for potential entrepreneurs in all 556 women were trained in basic enterprise skills. Yeah, actually the results, as far as the results is concerned, unfortunately, because of this devastating, say earthquake, the final evaluation could not be held. So even then, based on some observation and some field visits, there are some, the changes have been seen, say in the project. First stands, the women entrepreneurs, they were provided basic entrepreneurship training, and first stands, and also they are provided this specific skill training on digital farming, poultry farming, tailoring, bamboo, and the basic training encourages women to take, say, income, income activities. And the training also saw an enhancement of leadership qualities and a clear understanding of the enterprise development and its management. And advanced skill training was conducted on demand to 160 women. All of them are managing their enterprise for more effectively after training. Yeah. Actually, what I see, the experience that the CRD has experienced that we have covered only 10 UCs, but still, as Mr. Sunil has said, that there are 257 UCs. So if we can replicate this program in these UCs, definitely there is a huge impact in the community, because 257, that covers. The recent data says that 400 to 500. Households. That means about 2.5 million of the people. That's about 9% of the total population of Nepal can be covered by this project. So if this project replicated, definitely it will have very the good impact on economic growth, as well as reducing every small rural poverty in countries in Nepal in the long run. Yeah, thank you very much.
Can I, while you are presenting, can I ask the question that you focus on? And the question is, as we discussed, that drawing from experience in Sri Lanka, which had made a great achievement in terms of the demand side management of energy, drawing from that example, experience, can you tell us some key features of DSM? And what has been the challenges, particularly with regard to the gender concerns and also to energy concerns? And what are the most important lessons we can learn? So I will not ask these questions, you please address these questions. Thank you.
It is mostly given in my presentation. So before I start proper, thank you very much ADB and all the organizers for giving me this opportunity. We'll move next. So the DSM matter in low income also is the theme. DSM failed in these low income groups because they make their purchase decisions based on very short term perspectives, and they have no excess cash to buy efficient equipment, and better technologies like LED, CFS, they don't reach the outer posts of the country, and they are once again very well insulated from the high tariffs. Actually, they should be paying. The cost of electricity to a rural household is about 27 rupees, whereas they pay something like 5 rupees, 10 rupees. So that is the kind of difference. So how the cash flows work in a low income family, usually a single breadwinner, and the finance manager is the breadwinner, but in most cases, in fact, over the lunch I explained to her that gender doesn't have a name in my language. Gender is an enigma. So our people, they don't manage their finances. The women in the family, they do the management of the finances. So thrift is essentially a female concept. So the money is given to the women, earned by men, and the families are run by mothers. So many other financial instruments like C2 collection, it's known as C2 in my language, where several women get together, contribute money, and the collection is taken by one family in 1 month, and the next month another family, like that. So there are so many things going on like that, and the utility bill payments are usually done by the men in the family because they consider it a rather complicated thing. But all other essentials by women. So women pay very little attention to energy saving because electricity is untouchable kind of a tricky thing for them, and it can interfere with their only means of entertainment, which is watching televisions. We have a teledrama band of about 4 hours, starting at around 6:30 in the evening and going on till 10:30 in the late night. So they have a problem, and the electricity bill is an end of the month phenomena, not immediately, no immediate pain or joy. And we, in this background, we considered an energy saving campaign and the efficiency improvement. Can you play the hyperlink? There's a small commercial break, so to say. Hyperlink. Where we sold efficiency.
विद्याग्राही अवस्था उभी मनाफे नॉर्मल कर इसे मैग्नम सीएफएल कर मेरा लसन हदाई बिलर मेरा सेट असुआ उधरिया इधरी कर होना इसे नाम सुपर बल अभिषेक है नॉर्मल
So it's based on the reality show concept where the CFL won the competition. Unfortunately, it broke halfway. So that is how we created our theme, absurdism. So 2 bulbs competing to become a reality star. Next one, please. And we touched on the gender nerve by seeing the 2 male and female modes of our species in the negative light. Men as worthless loafers and sinners, and women as thoughtless wasters, both in a very negative sense. So we have 2 more commercials to show you how we did it. First one, please. Hope this one will play. I think all Asians will agree with me the way we have.
Kau hidup korla badak na, anna udah mimpi. Kalau mampu mereka karena pasti, ini light udah nih, memang ada kanatik. Mau mereka nih barsap, apa yang nih offer mah?
That is how we portrayed the men. Then the next one, where we castigated the women. Yeah. So we essentially wrote the cultural wave and the general description of wasteful expenditure.
There's a problem with that.
Again, please. Sorry. Let it go like that. It says the disconnection man has come. because of her wasteful way of living. So we touched on the cultural definition of how negative a man or a woman can be, and this campaign was successful. We'll go to the next one. We essentially helped to decouple the GDP growth from the electricity demand growth, and the two curves started to separate from that point onwards, and lowered the demand growth trajectory by a considerable margin, and drove the CFL sales up to 30% more sales. And now it's the primary lighting source in our country. Energy efficiency products are selling more than 85%, whereas 15% are the normal lamps. So you can see the same thing in the graph. This is how we manage our peak demand. And challenges: maintaining a media campaign is a very, very costly business, and it is fatigue prone. You just can't show the same advertisement every day. People will just forget it. And consolidation of the chain we achieved has been a very difficult task so far. I think that's about it.
First, now we request Sanjukta Roy. A little bit different than what she had planned, but she's prepared for that. In view of the World Bank ASMAP and recent shift in energy strategy,
I'm only presenting.
Could you tell us about cost effectiveness in energy industry and its linkages with household economy? And what kind of and how strategic is women's participation in this, or gender concerns? That is the, and it is, you want to present, you present?
No, I'll just speak because here it's a little bit different.
Okay.
So thank you very much for this opportunity. So, briefly, first I'll talk about the linkage between gender and DSM and energy efficiency, like how the two things can merge. The main point here would be that women are the primary users of energy resources in the household, and they are typically like in a good position to monitor and manage the use of the same. However, they are also the ones who lack information or the financial resources to make decisions. To address these issues, not only do we need more information campaigns targeting men and women separately, like the way he just showed us, but also the fact to give women these resources, this financial resources, trainings, etc., by which they can engage themselves in the entire the entire process and make decisions as an outcome. Now, just to give you an example of one of the technical assistance programs that the World Bank has done in this regard will be a cook stove program that was done in Cambodia in 2008. So this was a pilot program where the basic outline was to scale up production of energy efficient cook stoves. Now, the success of the program lied in the fact that here women were not only used as beneficiaries, but they were rather used as the change makers. And how the way the process worked was they were made not only the entrepreneurs but also the retailers of the new product. So how that was done, just a brief few steps about it. First, key NGOs were first the technology was selected in consultation with the community. There were 2-3 options, and then the community chose what they thought would work best for them. Then the targeted villages were chosen where the pilot were to happen. Now the critical success factor for this project lay in the fact that these entrepreneurs and retailers, who were essentially women, were chosen from every strata of the population, by which we mean that the sample wrote from the wives of the village leaders to members of CBOs to a normal woman in the villages to, say for example, vendors of vendors of normal grocery stores. So all types of women were targeted. what happened as part and since the trade and the last step was the providence of training to these women, which was the way they were chosen were essentially through lucky draw. So randomly chosen women were given the trainings of how to make cook stoves and how to repair them and maintain them, along with some business skills, so as to how they could sell the product. At the end of the project, we saw that per month women were selling say about 2,000 cook stoves, and with a profit margin in hand. So this was very briefly one of the successful projects, a TA project that the bank has done with SMAP funding. Now, talking more about the World Bank's strategy when it comes to energy broadly and gender. So we all know, like all other multilaterals, the bank is a lending organization. As part of lending projects, we of course have the safeguard policies in place, which in itself takes care of indigenous people, social inclusion, women, etc. However, apart from that, we have the technical assistance programs, which have the leeway of deep diving into some of these more deeper issues and give us the scope to take up tasks which can mainstream, say for example, gender. Now, the typical course of action in this regard that happens is for every TA or every such project, we have gender assessments, which is followed by a gender action plan, and then monitoring indicators are developed, and when the implementation is done, there is an evaluation in place. Now that is what has been happening so far, and some very successful projects have been implemented thus far, which includes the AFRIA 1 and 2 programs in Africa. Then you have many energy access projects in East Asia and LAC, and also in South Asia for that matter. Now going forward, some of the things are changing in the bank. For example, there's this eminent shift in mindset that we need to look at least large infrastructure projects as being gender neutral to being more gender specific, because when we talk about gender neutral project, a lot of things don't come into the surface. So we are looking at gender specific processes right now. For example, apart from having safeguard policies, the bank is now preparing gender mainstreaming frameworks, especially targeting infrastructure projects. We are also doing thematic social audits of active projects pertaining to infrastructure projects, just to see currently how we are doing regarding certain indicators, which includes gender as one. And secondly, the bank is also moving from a supply-driven supply-driven method to a more demand-driven thing. For example, in Afghanistan, we are doing this programmatic technical assistance, where we have to, as a precursor for developing the country's energy policy. The bank is about to launch a pan-national diaries survey, where households and enterprises will keep diary for say a year or 2 years, and through that we will collect gender disaggregated data, which will give us a detailed information on the need and use of off-grid and on-grid resources. And that is just one example of it. Secondly, we are also moving from the fact that we need to treat energy access or energy efficiency projects as less of a subsistence to more of aspirational, in the sense that whenever we talk about these kind of projects, we typically say that we are providing 4 light bulbs, that like as if we are presuming that that's what the demand is, and we are trying to project it now like as more of a like aspirational thing, where if people are willing to pay, how much more they want to pay for a certain level of service which a normal household would like to have. And as someone in the morning session said, that we already have people already at the bottom of the pyramid are paying huge amount of coping costs. So there is a market there already. We just need to provide them better services, and that is where the shift is slowly happening. So that is what I have to say.
We are going to another challenging presentation and very interesting one from Adnan. And Adnan, my question is, will you like to do presentation or?
Yes. I can do it without it.
No, you can do it. But can you address this question which we discussed, that the Uzbekistan Advanced Electricity Metering project, which is large scale metering program, what are the benefits from this smart metering program, and what are the lessons that one can learn, and what are the challenges? So if you can pay more attention to this, perhaps in your presentation, that will be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. When we do smart metering, basically the concept is that we are looking for a utility which is financially and technically more sustainable, and you are talking about a real-time data which you can provide to the decision makers who can plan and operate more effectively. In Uzbekistan, we are doing smart metering, which basically has three main benefits: loss reduction, increase in revenue collection, and real-time data information. This project we started 2 years ago. It is in implementation now, and it came as a result of government's decision to install smart meters throughout the country. So ADB, World Bank, Islamic Development Bank, we got together and we are all co-financing different regions in the country. After this, when we're talking about smart metering, then we discussed more technologies and we looked at the market, and we were looking at all other countries in our region also, and we found out that there's another technology which is smart metering, but one step ahead, that is advanced metering infrastructure. So in Pakistan, we had similar issues like Uzbekistan and many of the issues that we're facing in your region. We developed an advanced metering infrastructure for Pakistan and approved it last year. That had one additional benefit than the Uzbekistan project, and that was demand-side management. So through the meter, we designed a project which will do demand-side management, and some of the issues which will be addressed by that project I saw today in the presentations when there was a video from Joint Secretary in Delhi, and there was a presentation from Principal Secretary here from Madhya Pradesh. I'll give you a little detail on that a little later, but first I would like to tell you the benefits or how this project links with the gender component in Uzbekistan. We are addressing three things, or we have three areas where we are engaging. One is protecting the jobs of the existing women staff. There are they call it meter controllers, maybe here probably they call it meter readers. So there are women in Uzbekistan who are doing meter reading. After we have smart metering, there is no meter reading, there will be automatic meter reading. So they will lose their jobs. So in our project, we have factored in training programs where women will be trained and given new skills, and they will fit into the new structure, not as meter reader, but as meter supervisors, as fault detectors, different capacities. Second area where we are focusing is creating jobs for women in the new setup. So there are customer service centers. There is a lot of work to be done on computer data management. So computer service centers, operators, computer engineers, managers, that's what we are focusing in terms of job creation. Third is, which is mainly community based, which is awareness through focused community groups. So in each region there will be a focus group assigned the task to bring awareness to the people, especially women in the house, telling them the benefits of the project and how more effectively they can use electricity after the project. Now I referred to the Pakistan project. So Pakistan project has one more benefit, that is the demand side management. So there are more linkages to gender in the Pakistan project. I'll give you some. I can talk on this project for hours and hours, but I only have 2 minutes left, so I'm trying to shorten it to the extent possible. And I'm not going with my presentation, I have changed it a little. In Pakistan, we have a very big issue. That's we call it load shedding. That's the supply-demand gap. There's 5,000 megawatts gap. So you get electricity 14 to 16 hours a day, and there's load shedding for 8 to 10 hours. There are different ways to address that. Some try to do it through generation, some try to bring in off-grid solar systems and other things, some try to improve transmission lines. We try to do it through meter. It's a new concept. We are going to test it in Pakistan. What we have done is that in the smart meter we have put an option where we, instead of shutting down an area, we will limit the load of every customer in that area. That will be 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt, wherever you want to set according to your gap. And every house will have electricity throughout the day. There will be no blackouts. It's just that you manage the load. The second part we have done is that, as we have been saying since morning, India has been talking about separating the feeders. Tube well separate, domestic separate. With smart meters, there is no need for that. You install the meters, and on the same feeder, you can shut down tube wells while the houses are still running. You can shut down the houses while your hospitals, your schools are still running. So you can manage all this while sitting in your office. You don't have to do anything. You just install the meters and manage it through load management. Now this one has a major impact on housewife. Her daily life is linked with electricity. So you shut it down for 3 hours and her whole schedule is disturbed. If she doesn't know that there will be no electricity. So what we did is that in the Pakistan project, we are going to install a small device inside the house. This device is like a mobile. So inside the house, she would know all time how much is her electricity bill right now, how much load she is using, and the main thing would be when would she not have electricity. For example, if she will not have it tomorrow 7 o'clock, it will give her a message at 7 to 9 you will not have electricity. So she can better plan her next day. So that is for now, but in future that device will be further used in terms of, there was one of the presenters who mentioned it also, that next 5-7 years you will have the options of, when you have multi-buyer, multi-seller system within your country, then you will have the option of deciding whether you need expensive power, you want to use the expensive power or not. So this device will be used at home. She will get a message, we have power, but it is expensive. Do you want to use it or reduce your load? So she decides if she wants to run that expensive plant or not. So these are the kind of innovations we are trying to bring in through these new technologies. Thank you.
Okay, so what are the burning questions? And if you can be including comments, but you can be very, very brief. We can have, we were prepared for 3 questions, but now we have 5 minutes, so you can have 3 questions. Yes, please. And identify yourself, sir. I know what drug you are, but just
Hello, I'm Partha Sen Sharma from IIT Kanpur. I just have a question to Mr. Adnan. I guess there's quite a bit of communication component in the solution that you're talking about. One part was the mobile device which the house owner is reading out from. So I guess that should be a GSM kind of communication, just like a mobile phone communication. But there's the other part where you actually give a command to the smart meter to switch off the non-critical loads during peak power demand situations. How are you handling that part of the communication?
Can we have one more question before we ask the panelists to address? Any hand? They were very interesting and self-explanatory, or you are very tired, or both. Yes.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, okay.
Can you speak a little bit about the cost-benefit analysis?
Please identify yourself.
Oh, sorry. I'm Arunabha Mukherjee from Tata Capital, and I'm asking this question because we run a utility in Delhi where they've done a smart grid installation, which with help from one of the development agencies. But I think they're still struggling with the cost-benefit analysis, so that we should sort of preventing a larger rollout.
No, actually, we are connecting to that. When you order 1,000 meters, do you 1 million? I think. What did you say? Did you get the huge price drop down or not?
On the communication side, yes, communication systems is part of the project. There are 3 different communications. One is radio frequency, one is GPRS, and one is PLC. PLC is the wire of the network. You can use that. So we have blended it differently in both the countries. It depends on your country's systems. For example, in Uzbekistan, we are doing a mixture of radio frequency and PLC. In Pakistan, we are doing a mixture of GPRS and PLC. So communication will be based on these, and then it's different for different consumers. For large consumers, we use GPRS. For small consumers, we use PLC. Communication system part of the project, different options. The house device is connected through a wire, so the messages go through wire. The load management, load control, that's through the computer systems. How we do it? Basically, the app that is available is for tariffs. It's not for load management. So we have misused that for this purpose. That is, if you have multiple tariffs in your country, then you have you can split them into 24 hours. So every hour you can have a different tariff. So we use that one with a disconnector in the meter and then a load limiter. So these 3 combined together will be used to limit the load. So if you use it beyond 2 kilometers, if we are saying 2 kilowatts, so if you use it before 2 kilowatts, it will shut down your electricity for 5 minutes. It will give you 5 minutes to reduce your load. After 5 minutes, again you will get the electricity. So that is how we managed. But I'm sure once we implement this at a bigger level, then there will be more technology options to address this kind of thing. Mostly the technology comes from Europe and US, and they don't have these issues. So that's why up till now, these things have not been developed there. But this is the market now. I see Pakistan, I see India, I see maybe other countries, so it will develop. Cost benefit, I forgot to talk about the issues. Yeah, that's the issue which people think. That's the mindset which has to change. We were talking about $1 billion on feeder splitting. Meter cost will not be more than that. So it depends on your country, it depends on the area, and it depends on the issue which you want to address. If you have a distribution company where losses are less than 10%, recoveries are good, this is very expensive for them, they don't need it. If you have a company where losses are high, recoveries are not there, this is not an expensive offer, even if it is very expensive. So you have to make an assessment. The third one was number of meters and the price per, in Uzbekistan.
Bulk discount.
Yeah, bulk discount is there, and there are 2 reasons for discount. One is the bulk discounts, and the second is that Europe has basically already done all the smart metering. Only France is left, and France is doing now 55 million. So they need a market. So there are no contracts in Europe. Second, when you do bulk, yes, then you get a discount. In Uzbekistan, we had budgeted it at $150 million. It came down to something around 120. So the price came down. So the more you have in the region, the more the price will come down.
Thank you, Adnan. With this, I think the session comes to a close. Our other panelists don't want to say much. They can be available out.
This evening is about honoring good practices on gender mainstreaming in the energy sector by recognizing the key role of partnership, by also giving the floor to our partners for a welcoming message, Secondly, to briefly award 2 successful projects, and of course, plunging into the cultural richness of the incredible state of Rajasthan. So let me invite Prabjot Khan together with Francesco Tornieri and Dr. Rehana Mohideen, who are the true architects and engineers of this conference. I wish you all a very enjoyable evening. Thank you.
Thank you to ADB. This has been such an inspiring day. I cannot describe, UN Women is beginning to work in the space of women's access to renewable energy and entrepreneurship, and I have been so thrilled to hear about all of the fantastic work that's already going on in South Asia. So thank you so much, and thank you for inviting us to be a partner with you for this important conference. This past year has been very eventful and historic. In September, the UN member states adopted the 15-year Transformative Global Development Agenda to reduce poverty and adopt a more sustainable and resilient path towards development. I know you know all about the Sustainable Development Agenda, so I won't go deeply into the agenda, but I would like to say that together with the women's movement and other allies, we succeeded as UN Women in placing gender equality and women's empowerment at the heart of the global agenda for sustainable development. And without women, we know that the global agenda cannot be achieved. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, include a standalone goal on gender equality and empowering all women and girls. And as you know, gender equality is integrated across all of the actions and is essential to achieving all of the other SDGs, including those on poverty, hunger, health, education, water and sanitation, employment, the just and peaceful societies, sustainable cities, and economic growth. The message of the 2030 Agenda is very, very clear and unequivocal. Women and girls make up more than half of the world population and are more deeply impacted than men and boys by poverty, climate change, food insecurity, the lack of health care, and global economic crises. We saw several examples today about how women are more impacted by the lack of access to sustainable energy. Women's contributions and leadership are central to finding a solution to global development challenges. And Sheila was very, very articulate about that this morning in the first session. Progress on gender equality and women's contributions are also crucial to Goal 7 of the SDGs, which emphasize the access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all by 2030. Women are the primary managers in households. The disproportionate effects of energy poverty, particularly on rural women and female-headed households across the world, has been well documented, and we heard again about that today. Women spend hours each day collecting fuel to cook and to heat their homes, and millions suffer from the indoor air pollution that's generated by the rudimentary cooking that takes place when they burn wood or dung or coal inside the home. Alternative means of cooking and heating are long overdue, and as we've discussed today, many new solutions are on the way, but women are still largely absent in the industries that produce alternative energy, comprising only 20% of the renewable energy workforce. And I must say, though, I was so impressed at the number of initiatives that were presented by governments and states and private sector that are creating employment for women in this sector. It's very, very exciting. But it's critical that energy planning and policy making continue to factor in women's access to clean and renewable energy and actively advance women's leadership in this field. UN Women is at the forefront of raising the visibility of women's role in renewable energy and in addressing climate change. As a result of our advocacy, gender targets are now central to the climate platforms, the Durban Platform, Rio Plus 20, the Green Climate Fund, and of course the COP21 outcome statement. Since 2011, UN Women has sponsored the Gender Equality Award granted by the SEED Initiative, a global partnership for action on sustainable development and the green economy, which has supported clean energy enterprises and initiatives led by women. For example, the 2014 awardee was Jita Social Business, an innovative rural distribution network of women across Bangladesh who sell solar lamps door to door. In 2011, the award went to a community solid waste management program in Nepal run by a women's committee and supported by a local municipality. The Women's Committee reduced landfill and generated energy by recycling organic waste to fuel biogas plants. A key energy initiative of UN Women is our support to the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, and this public-private partnership works to save lives, empower women, and combat climate change in Bangladesh, India, China, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, and Guatemala by creating a global market for clean and improved cook stoves. Our goal is to have 100 million homes adopt clean and efficient stoves and fuels by 2020. UN Women also works with the World Health Organization and the United Nations Foundations to increase access to solar technologies for women's health facilities in low and middle income countries, and this is part of the Secretary General's Sustainable Energy for All initiative, which is focused on universal energy access, renewable energy, and energy efficiency. We work with Barefoot College, I think we'll be hearing more about Barefoot College tomorrow, to promote community managed and owned solar lighting. And through South-South cooperation, rural African women travel to the Barefoot College, which is here in Rajasthan, for hands-on training to become solar engineers. And each one of these women then covers 60 households back within their communities in Africa. Finally, in partnership with the government of Bangladesh and Norway, UN Women has worked with civil society to help women in disaster-prone districts of Bangladesh to influence climate change adaptation and mitigation. We help to build their skills in green micro-businesses and including renewable energy solutions. As Sheila mentioned earlier this morning, UN Women has just recently at the COP21 launched a new program together in partnership with UNEP, the UN Environment Program, on sustainable energy, entrepreneurship, and access. The program will be implemented in 6 countries: Morocco, Indonesia, India, Myanmar, Senegal, and Bolivia, and it will promote women's entrepreneurship and access to sustainable energy, as well as supporting women's growing involvement and leadership in energy policy making. I will look forward to hearing more from all of you about all of your initiatives and how we can find synergies. UN Women is entering this space. We have worked at the policy level of research and analysis, but now we want to get engaged in action. So we're really looking forward to working with all of you, and I want to congratulate ADB once again for this very, very important initiative, bringing us all together, sharing insights, thinking about how to move forward together, especially to achieve together Goal 7 on sustainable energy for all. So thank you once again. Please contact me. I'll be here tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to a very, very stimulating continuation of the day tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's really a privilege to be here and to be a partner with ADB in this conference. I would like to congratulate ADB for the foresight to actually talk about beyond the meter and to see electricity as a service and not just the power and the numbers, but what it actually does and how it changes lives. I'd like to thank also India for being our host here tonight, for the incredible foresight and what they have trying or what they will achieve with providing access, reliable access and sustainable access to all people here. These initiatives really resonate very well with our school. We have sustainability as one of our mottos, and our byline in the university is engineering in service of society. By the way, I just want to remind, I'm also speaking on behalf of IEEE, the social impact of technology society, which represents 400,000 electrical engineers around the world, and they see also themselves as engineering technology in service of humanity. So that is exactly how we want to teach our students, and I believe education is an incredibly big component if you indeed want to bring sustainable energy to all. And it will please you maybe that 30% of our students are women, and it's certainly not 50%. I would like it to be 50%, but with 30% we make a little contribution in that aspect as well. I also would like to thank just a few of my students from this region here, Vishnu and Ram, who helped me with the talk tomorrow, and just also want to acknowledge Rehana, who is one of the organizers here, who is also one of my PhD students. So in that respect, we are being very well served by the people here. And I would like to wish everybody here a fantastic Congress and a good learning experience. It's certainly for me, as an engineer, a very interesting experience to see how engineering and technology is being perceived more broadly and what an impact it actually makes on people's lives. So thank you for the learning exercise for me, and I wish you all a fantastic Congress. And again, ADB, congratulations on this fantastic initiative. Thank you.